Hey, what's up, everybody, and big hugs from the crew at E2KG, the E2KG Network, I should say. Welcome aboard. Once again, my name is Guest Lee Stanis, back with another episode of The Dark Hypotheses. I'm one of your co-hosts for this evening, and paired with me, as always, is Mr. Dave Pecci. How you doing, Dave?
Good. How are you, Agiscles?
Good. If you see me yawning, and hopefully I won't actually nod off, it is not at all due to your conversation or the subject matter at hand. I am on like 2.5 hours of sleep, and I've been up since 4:30. So I've just been trying to get into work a little earlier.
I was going to say, did one of the networks break down or something? The servers? Typical IT problem.
No. I have a lot more to do these days, so that's really weird. Okay, so I guess I didn't realize that connecting my Twitter account to one YouTube login would auto-tweet a bunch of stuff onto the other channels. So we'll let that go. So as always, we are here. This is the Dark Hypotheses. This is a Dark Matter Fancast. So every week after the newest episode airs on Friday, Dave and I get together to do usually a very deep breakdown of the most recently aired episode, spool a bunch of conspiracy theories, and then land on an overall hypothesis for a thing yet to come. And then we get out of here, and we wait eagerly to watch the upcoming episode. So this was episode 9. We are now 4 episodes remaining to the end of the season.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I lost count. Oh, by the way, this is a spoiler podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Just to remind people out there, if you have not seen the episode, although you probably should have already, because we are, usually 2 days away from the next episode. But if you have not, turn this podcast off now and watch the episode first.
Yeah, absolutely. So this episode was fun. So as usual, I'm going to ask you to kind of give me your general feelings without giving away too much detail before we actually get into the formal conversation. While I
get the So this episode is my probably my number 2 favorite. Which my number 2 was the very first episode, but this one just kind of out of pure humor and just pure thought of seeing what the Dark Matter crew would be like if they happened to beam to modern 21st century Earth. And this was just great. It was just totally, all the tropes were in there, okay? Kind of the nosy, next door 13-year-olds thinking, ooh, they're aliens. And all those fun tropes were included. And I loved it. It was great. And it was a great setup and very touching too. I love some of the scenes that were included with Emily 5. And I think it was just, kind of it was good too, because I loved not getting too deep into it, but I really liked from the beginning of the episode how Android was trying to, get people, the crew members to act like a family. And I almost felt like that it was unspoken that she wanted everybody to stay in this current timeline that they ended up in, not getting too much detail, but it was interesting just to see how happy the crew was, and it raised a lot of questions watching this episode about a lot of what ifs. What if the crew of the Raza decided to stay out of the crisis, not do anything, you know? What if they just let the future timeline roll out, you know? Is the Raza helping things? Because the Raza, you know, has caused several things that have already happened. So it's a interesting episode, and I guess, Liz, what's your opinion on it if you're ready? Just your general summary.
I am not, but I guess we'll have to press on.
Oh, no worries. I can keep talking if you're not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I guess I could do a brief summary of what this episode's about. Let's see if I remember. It is called... I do not remember what this episode is called, but basically...
Isn't that a paradox?
Right. Isn't that a paradox? Right.
Yeah.
So the Raza crew is initially sent back to the 21st century, not knowing how they got to the 21st century. And they also realize that the only way to get back to their future is yet another blink drive, which raises a whole lot of questions that I feel were not completely, totally answered yet about the history of the blink drive. But a lot of that history was explained in this episode, and I thought that was great and very interesting, and also raises many questions, what you can do with the blink drive, and what should they do with the blink drive? Because, you know, this blink drive we thought could only warp, you know, we've seen it warp them to different pockets of space, warp them to different dimensions, and not only can it do all that, but it can warp you to different periods of time. So it is the ultimate trump card of the dark matter universe, and who knows what else it could do. And it's and the other thing that we don't really get to find out in the episode is we meet one of the creators of the blink drive, but he doesn't tell us who hired him to create it and any of the details or the specs. All we know is that they knew when they made the blink drive it was bad, and so he installed a recall initiative which would pretty much teleport where the blink drive is to where his location, which would be 21st century Earth. Which is fascinating. And and another thing I forgot to say is the current guy who was one of the creators of the blink drive happened to mention that the rest of the creators were killed off. That whoever had them make the blink drive was killed, possibly so that nobody else could create such another powerful technology. But it's just to me it's fascinating that they left the guy who made the blink drive on 21st century Earth, and that was it. You know, any other future questions, if he ever wants to, you know, recall the blink drive again, you know, we'll never know. But I do love that as open possibilities. And I can't wait to hear, I guess, Cleese, what you think about all of that.
Yeah, sorry. So before we get into my part of the rundown, I want to mention a little bit about the show and kind of our method acting approach to it. So, you know, we've done the episodes a few different ways, and one of probably the primary ways we come at it are to actually run down the entire episode chronologically, act to act, and mention any comments or perceptions that we have on it. Because participating in a YouTube channel that is oriented around podcast content, things get very busy. So it's actually a little stressful to run back and forth between 3 podcasts during the week. So I specifically didn't want to do that on this episode. I kind of wanted to have a little more lighthearted, kind of meandering approach to talking this one through.
Okay.
And we're definitely open, you know, to audience members and viewers. This is not an unwatched podcast. Actually, more and more people have been watching. Probably partially due to Mr. Malazzi tweeting it out periodically, but you know, we're definitely looking for and open to feedback on which type of episode and our approach do you think is the most enjoyable to listen to. The fully scripted ones where we kind of, like I said, march through the chronological timeline of an episode one by one, are the ones that are kind of semi-scripted, or tonight's, which is going to be kind of a little less scripted or unscripted. So yeah, there's a lot of things in this episode, and this is up there for me in terms of one of my fun episodes. I'm forgetting what was the one. What was the one right before this?
That was the one with Ryu in it, and the Ryu. That was the. Oh gosh, what do you call it? I totally don't remember. I just know it was like a long Ryu episode. It was episode.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Unfortunately, this is one of the times where we don't have a lot of stuff in Rise. This was Hot Chocolate was the last episode.
Right.
And
yeah.
There were similar themes just in terms of. It was kind of a more intimate episode. It was hyper focused on relationships. That episode was further accentuated because it was kind of a locked room episode. But I felt like there were a lot of similarities in it, being very character development kind of oriented. And yeah, so I can't remember the other reason for that. I was going to say this reminded me a little bit of Hot Chocolate, kind of thematically, but so yeah, like you mentioned, this follows on what we mentioned the last episode where I said there was kind of one of these great. And Dark Matter does this so well. One of these great, like, hey, watch this, right? Scenes at the end of Hot Chocolate. And I'm like, before they push the button, I'm like, well, this isn't going to go well. And they wake up and find out that they have jumped time. Which, and we also talk a lot about, and Mr. Malazzi himself talks about how, a lot of these episodes are kind of classic, or takes on classic episodes from other sci-fi shows. So this is one of the classic, we have to go down, we have to time jump, or we have time jumped, and we have to now go down to the planet and interact with the denizens of the time period. So kind of a famous kind of Star Trek themed, Star Trek definitely does this from time to time. And we've definitely seen it done in other shows in the genre. So when they do this, there's always this risk that it's going to come off as too much of a repeat or a trope. But as we've talked to Mr. Malazzi, he says it's deliberate. It's an homage in some ways, but it's also to show a different take on a classic sci-fi theme. But I really liked it. You mentioned a few things that you felt like maybe weren't tied off with a bow as well. But I didn't really walk away from this episode worried about a lot of the things, or taking those away as a negative.
No, I don't think it was a negative. I thought it was really good because it allows, I think, for interesting plot twists perhaps down the future. And if there's anything we've learned in Dark Matter, everything comes back up one way or another.
Right. So, and I really hope, I guess my feeling is actually, I'm actually hoping this is a one and done. I'm not too interested in seeing them time travel again. I definitely don't want to see them go back to this era. Maybe
That's
if they
true.
didn't.
What I would love to see if they do another time travel is to the future.
Yeah, so that would be very interesting. Not there. Yeah, so yeah, that would be awesome. Man, yeah. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I'm really exhausted, so I'm having a hard time keeping a straight face. So like you mentioned, right? They jump back in time. They find the creator of the Blink Drive. So
one of the creators.
Yes, right. The sole surviving creator.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like his monologue at that part of the show kind of indicated that he was one of the key minds behind it. So I'm still kind of thinking of him as the creator. Maybe he was the architect of the one who actually invented it, and then I could see him working with a bunch of other engineers to actually implement it. But
The one thing that they do with him, though, at the very end of the episode, is that you do see that he does make the moral choice to turn off the recall mechanism, which just means...
Did we actually see that?
Yeah, he turned off the machine because the lights went off. And
but I interpreted his commentary about this recall mechanism that was code. That it's essentially a subroutine that gets executed at some point in the Blink Drive's runtime. So I didn't think him turning off the machine necessarily.
Okay.
But again, my overall hope is I would just assume that they only meet that character one time, and that they leave it alone. I thought it was interesting because it's a take on Professor, what was the guy's name? On Professor Cochrane, right? The inventor of the warp drive in the Star Trek universe. But I loved the riff, right? The riff was, and maybe they did this a little bit in First Contact. Zephyr Cochrane is the inventor of the warp drive in the Star Trek universe. He's a character who's revered, right? And in First Contact, when the Enterprise D goes back, they find that he is maybe, not as glorious as history, makes him out to be. But this guy is, but his storyline is still even starkly different from that, right? He's kind of a very middle of the road character. Like, you don't know whether to admire him or feel sympathy for him or pity. You don't really know if you feel like he made the right decision or the wrong decision. Anthony Lemke's character, Marcus, kind of definitely mentions something that, invokes you to consider the thought of, is this guy really just a coward? Like, is he hiding out in the past and not really facing up or trying to help, right? That's the big thing. So it's neat to see the inventor. I really love the interpersonal relationships, obviously, that we got to see. I feel the one, and I won't call it a disappointment. It was more a hope or a wish. We have seen, and so the android is a little limited right now because of the mind hack where where her programming was taken over. Apparently damaged what I'm still going to call the emotion chip, because I'm not sure what else to call it. Apparently damaged the emotion chip, and so she's not able to use it right now. So what's unfortunate is she wasn't able to slide into that alternate personality that she goes into when the emotion chip is active. I really, because we've seen 2 and 3 paired off, I was really wanting to see more subtly romantic interaction between her and 6, because it was interesting, right? Because Android was the one who set up all the pairings, right? And came up with the whole backstory of their cover. She paired herself. She put 2 and 3 together, who were supposed to be married, and she made herself and 6 a couple. So I was kind of very interested because I love Roger Cross and what he does on the show. I love Zoe Palmer, what she does. I was their faux partnership. I would have liked to have seen explored more. We got a bit of an intimate scene between 2 and 3 on the park bench, talking about the dog, and Melissa O'Neill's character, contemplating, whether or not they should just stay in this time zone and buy a dog. Would have been interesting. Two couples plus their daughter living in a single household. I know. Well, I won't say what I was going to say. I'll say that can often be a very difficult dynamic, right? When you have 2 married.
It is odd. I mean, you could tell it in the neighbor's face. They're like, "Oh, your sister and your brother-in-law live with you? That's quite interesting. Like, that doesn't happen every day." Right.
And I haven't personally lived through that. We've had family come for extended visits, but some of them have been in situations where, couples that had, my wife lived with my brother-in-law and his wife for a little bit when they were all working in the same town, and it was shortly after my brother-in-law and his wife got married. So anybody who's married knows that you go through what can sometimes be a very extreme transition period of combining household and finances and a couple coming off their norms. So the whole notion of them staying in the past and living in the same household as two couples would have been interesting. But
and the other thing too was the personas that she gave them, right? Because Portia's the soccer mom, which is like totally unexpected,
right?
And then the soccer mom is apparently somehow married to the tough guy, or I forget what it was.
right. Yeah, I forgot. I forgot what his cover was supposed to be, but yeah.
And then Cal is supposed to be, what was it? The professional guy or something like that.
I can't remember. Unfortunately, I didn't write this. Like I said,
he looks like a hipster to me, though. To be honest,
it was weird that his outfit was strangely slightly futuristic, whereas everybody else's was like firmly rooted in the time period.
Yeah, and then the android is like this elegant, professional, and then 5 is this, gothy kid.
Right, yeah. So,
and we're like, right, that's the norm for the kids of this century.
right. So thematically, like I said, it was a wonderful episode. I liked seeing. It was interesting. It was interesting to see 5. So part of the 5 subplot was, they in the neighborhood there were 3 kids who were good friends. I guess eventually we find out 2 of them are cousins, but they hang out a lot in the house across the street. They immediately become suspicious and start kind of spying on the crew of the Raza who have just moved in. And one of the kids develops a crush for 5, which I always like. These very kind of small but innocent romantic spokes that we kind of explore with 5, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty neat, and her giving him the talk about, hey, this is just a crush, right? You're going to grow out of it. You're going to find somebody you really like, and then I love again the show writers and showrunner kind of turning things on its head, because it's done so frequently in movies. She mentions to him that somebody he really likes is probably already somebody he knows, and she looks at the young girl who hangs out with these 2 guys, and he goes, "Oh, ew, no, she's my cousin," right? So, whereas in most shows, there would have been this little coy exchange of looks between the 2 of them, and she would have blushed and admitted that she really liked him. So it was nice to see that quirk. So yeah, I don't know what else about this episode did you kind of like or dislike?
So that what you just mentioned, I really enjoyed that part, and it got me thinking about when we very first got to meet 5. That she had that one young boy that snuck on the Raza with, and so I was thinking, she would have brought that up, that I used to have a friend that and you remind me of him, but they didn't go that too far deep. But that's what I initially thought of, was that she had that connection before.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
So one of the interesting things at the end, as we always kind of go through this 1.5 minute denouement right after the key closing, I would call it. There's a discussion, and or I think I can't remember who it is that's looking at a screen of the news feed after they return to their own timeline. But Android definitely mentions in kind of the debriefing that one of the things that's changed on the timeline is that one of the key, I think, engineering minds of the time, and maybe
it was the warp drive creator.
The warp drive creator,
yeah.
Is now a descendant.
FTL engine. I think it was FTL.
Oh, that's right. You're right. FTL. That person is actually a woman and is a descendant of the kid that they met back in the previous timeline, and the one that had a crush on 5. And I want to say that I've seen, again, I don't personally watch the preview segments deliberately so, because I don't want to be I don't want to have to compromise, but I want to say that I've definitely seen preview images and photos that show that actress showing up in later episodes. I thought that's what I've seen. So
yeah, I definitely feel that they're leading up to that person's going to become an ally for the Raza crew. And as we know, the Raza crew could use as many allies as they, can get, because they're building enemies as fast as they're building friends. So, which is, interesting. Everything the Raza does, they're either making an enemy or they're making a friend.
Right. No, that's an interesting observation. I never really. Yeah, there's not a lot of middle ground between the Raza crew and other people that they meet in the dark.
It's very straightforward in the Dark Matter universe.
Right. So yeah, just overall, this was. I think my overall takeaway is this was a very charming episode. That really was all about the characters and very little about the sci-fi stuff. In previous episodes, I said that I really want them to get back to the science. But this was completely fine, right? It had a very much kind of 80s feel. Like I very much felt like it was, even though supposedly they were arriving in our time zone. I felt like it had kind of an ET vibe to it. And like you said, there were kind of cute moments, right, where the android was hyper focused on them authentically replicating.
Yeah, that was definitely 80s vibe right there, where she looks at the kids, like, oh, she's watching.
Right, yeah. So I don't know, I feel like there's other things we should talk about this episode, but like I said, I didn't do the chronological listing, but I don't know, it was solid. I felt, another thing I felt just from a pacing perspective is, I felt it was good to kind of slow things down and have this tight focus on them as characters before what we know is probably going to be a super big action palooza right from now through the final 4 episodes to round out.
Right. Yeah.
To round out the season. So what an interesting sidebar and thing that is going on Twitter. If you are a Dark Matter fan, check out Justin Malazzi's feed. And I can't remember. I can't remember if it's him who started it or if he retweeted it. I think he started it, but one of the things he's polling for now is he's polling fans to find out who we'd like to see show up on a future episode of Dark Matter. And the specific question is, what Stargate universe actor or actress would you like to see show up on an episode of Dark Matter? So I personally voted for Christopher Judge, who played Teal'c on the Stargate series. I think that would be awesome. He was kind of the Worf of the SGU, and whereas I would say in my mind, I'm not saying that's the way that it was designed or intended, but it's just the little analogies that I create. Whereas I felt like Jason Momoa was kind of the Worf of Stargate Atlantis. So, but I would love to see Christopher Judge on an episode. And then my second pick was Claudia Black, who really, in my mind, really her claim to fame was the role that she played on Farscape. But also when Farscape ended, was a key guest star on later seasons of Stargate SG-1. But the really difficult thing is it's an incredibly long list of people from Stargate, and I'm not a hardcore Stargate fan. I just haven't gotten around. That's one of those series that is so big that I haven't gotten around to watching it because I'm a completionist, and once I started, I feel the need to watch all of it. But somebody near me in the reply thread also mentioned Amanda Tapping. Now, Amanda, as far as I know, has directed an episode of Dark Matter, but hasn't actually guest starred, and she's one that I've been looking for as well. So I don't know. Have you watched any of Stargate, and are you familiar at all with any of the actors or actresses that you'd like to see on a Dark Matter episode?
I have not seen Stargate. It was kind of, I don't know, that generation of sci-fi that I missed.
Okay, yeah. Nope, I can see that. And of course, we already have Tori Higginson, who's a recurring regular on the show, and David Hewlett, who is what is his character's name again? He was the original handler for the crew of the Raza, and the guy who Adrian was supposedly his assistant for. Tabor, I think his name is Tabor. Tabor Kalik, I want to say. I'm not absolutely positive. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. So my hypothesis, by the way, just to sum it up again, is that the granddaughter is going to come up and be an ally of the Raza. That is my prediction. And I'm interested to see because the other thing that we forgot to talk about on this episode before I talk about other stuff is at the very end of the episode, the android gets a call from, I think his name Anders was his name, I forget, but one of the robots or the androids with emotional chips, and he's like, "We're in trouble. We need your help."
Right. So just to round things out before we go over to that, so Tabor Kalchak, played by David Hewlett, who played Dr. McKay on Stargate Atlantis, and I was I'm probably a larger Stargate Atlantis fan because I kind of caught that as it was beginning. But yeah, so the episode does end with a call for help coming from the Android Liberation Front, the ALF, which maybe you would want to think of as ALF for people who grew up in the 80s. So we knew that was coming. So it's nice to see that being entered. So maybe that's the thing that we should kick around, Dave. So what do we know, or what do we believe we know is coming? We really, at some point, I guess, maybe even more so than tracking the whole dark hypothesis thing, because I will really admit I have been bad at doing that housekeeping. But we definitely need to, probably as the series rounds out, need to go back and do a map trace or whatever of the I call them the thread of 8. I think it was 8 of the.
Right. I still have those. Yeah, I still have those saved on my phone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so let me just round them off again.
Okay, sure.
Because we know one of them's coming up. So we have the Doorstar Conspiracy, which is a future episode, because that's the title of one of the coming episodes. So we know that will come up. The Fall of Ishida, I'm not sure, but I feel like that could definitely be in this season. The Black Ships, I have no clue if that'll be coming up. The double. Go on.
I think what Mr. Malachi told us was we would see. Did he say 5 of those this season?
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Or at least 3.
Yeah. So the double deception, which I don't know if we've seen that. And then we would meet Karina and Kryden. Which, wait, wasn't Karina the name of the granddaughter? Oh my gosh.
I'll have to go back and check.
Because that's probably going to be like a pivotal part. I totally, it's like, I think I remember hearing that name.
Yeah, go ahead and keep running them down. I will
Okay.
try and fact check that while you're talking.
Yeah. So Kryden, the Accelerated, and then the android meets her creator, which I believe that could be coming up just as soon as well. And then, yeah, so that's pretty much the 8. So I think we'll at least see 5 of those.
Right.
Man,
So
just go on.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, man, the name Kryden, that guy's got to be a total like super villain.
Have we seen indications that we're going to meet Jasper and Shrike?
No, yeah, because that was one of my hypotheses, and no indications of Jasper or Shrike yet.
Okay. So we know that we have an episode coming up where they reconvene with Alexander Rook, who is the creator of 2. So we know we've got that coming. Yeah, I'm trying to scroll through to see if there is an entry for the young lady, the creator of the FTL drive, but I don't. I don't know if that would be posted in the wiki already. But Victor is the name of the android who put out the call for help to Android. So we know that is coming as well. We've already had the fight between 2 and 4. I just don't know that that's the last fight. I just feel like there's some more epic conflict that we'll see between those two, but I'm not positive. So yeah, so we know we've got to tag up with Alexander Rook coming. We know we probably have another Ishida Empire centric episode, and we know that we're going to get probably an episode that focuses on Android. And I really can't tell. Like I said, not having watched the previews, I'm not positive what's coming up this week. It's one of, I want to say what I've seen is the reunion with Rook, but that I don't know how that interplays with the fact that we ended with the android getting a call for help, and if that means you're going to get both of those things happen in one episode, with one being the main plot and one being the sub, or if they're going to wind up just tackling the meetup with Alexander Rook first, and then. Now, one of my interesting theories has always been, what if Rook created both the androids and two? Right? Because would it make sense that if you had been the inventor of a bunch of androids and were dissatisfied with their performance and degree of capability to more firmly interact with the human race, that then maybe what you do is you whip up two, who's much more of an artificial human than an android.
Yeah. So I definitely think there's some connection going on, and I think it'll be great to see. The one thing that I was kind of wondering, because I saw one picture for the next episode where Portia's 2, right? Yeah, 2. So Portia is holding Android in kind of a romantic setting. So I'm starting to wonder, Data in Star Trek was made to look like his original creator. So I'm starting to wonder if Android was meant to resemble a real life person. And if it's kind of the same type of trope where her actual creator, is some female lady that had maybe also some part in the design of 2. So that's one thing I'm starting to wonder.
Right. So I'm sure, so there are other shows that cover dark matter as a topic. I don't know if there are any other shows that are dedicated to it. But so some of those shows are professional shows and the people are getting paid to do those. So they probably have dug deeper into these remaining episodes than we have. But you're right. So the next episode coming up is Built, Not Born, which I assume is at least about Android, but it could also be about 2. And maybe I'm starting to get the feel that both of those storylines are presented in one episode. As you mentioned, there is an actual episode named One of the Thread of 8, which is the Dwarf Star conspiracy. Then we have My Final Gift to You, which again sounds like it would be oriented around either 2 or Android, or sadly that maybe the walk off for Sarah could be the other.
Yeah, right. Those were all of my guesses as well.
Yeah, I really don't want to see Sarah. So we have had these supporting characters come onto and become part of the crew of the Raza and off. What I really want to see with Sarah is I really want to see her become like the ship's Cortana. I think there's room, even if you have the android, particularly if the android were to just get a hold of another emotion chip and then just permanently install it, and to kind of see that android persona go away and have her, have it be the total Pinocchio story, right? Have her become just a regular person. Then you have more room to have Sarah kind of become the AI for the Raza itself. So I really don't want to see her go, and I have fears that that's what's going on here. And then the final episode for this season, which airs August 25th, is Nowhere to Go. So
yeah, and I've also been contemplating, as Joseph Malozzi says, as we saw in that future scene, that it's very possible that there might not be a happy ending for the whole Raza crew. And I still have been debating, And personally, I don't know how I would have wanted to see it. You know, I don't know if I want to see all the Raza crew members survive through all this, or if I feel it would be a proper ending that they all died in some noble act, except for maybe 5 who carries on or somehow with the android.
Right. So of course we we have 5 provided the renewal comes through, right? The architecting of the storyline that Mr. Velazzi has done scripts this thing out for 5 seasons, so we've got a while. We also have a couple of things to look at, right? So notionally, I definitely look at the ending of Angel, season 5, which was the final season for that show, which would put it right within the same kind of duration framework that Mr. Velazzi is plotting. And even though that mythology continued on in comic books, at the end of season 5, there was an expectation that mythology was ending, and it kind of ends with some of the main characters dying as they orchestrate this whole master plan to finally take down evil for the last time, and then a bunch of them bloodied and bruised, and some of them, Charles Gunn is on the brink of dying and is almost assured to die. But Angel is beat up as well too. But then they kind of fling themselves, you would think hopelessly, at a very large army of demons, which you would think that they can't overcome. So that's their heroic walk off. And so it wouldn't be unusual to see that occur on Dark Matter. You also have the Firefly model where many of those characters walked off the stage by dying. In the climax for Firefly. And Mr. Malazzi, that's interesting. And I probably wouldn't ask him in a public space, but we didn't pull the thread when he was on the show as to whether or not there's any consideration of bridging this mythology over into the big screen space, even if it were something privately funded or small funded and worked out with who knows, Netflix or Amazon or something of that nature. That would be another thing that would be interesting to see, right? If something wonky and unfortunate does go on with sci-fi.
I would totally think it would be a great Netflix series, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's already the Netflix model in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Because Netflix itself kind of orients itself around what I refer to as more of the British television model of these shorter but super focused seasons with very strong characters. So I don't know. I would say these last 4 episodes will be a hoot. As we mentioned to other fans here, although Dave and I have kind of gotten our start focusing on Dark Matter, we are going to continue as the entertainment wing, or entertainment section, entertainment group within E2KG, and we will be starting a Defenders podcast when it drops. I think that drops on August 8th. I think it drops next week. We've got to talk about how we're going to load balance the remaining episodes of Dark Matter, but we'll probably do something with the Defenders that doesn't have us doing it weekly. So we might do like a couple episodes every 2 weeks or something like that. But then once Dark Matter wraps up on the 25th, then we'll probably transition to a standard weekly schedule like we have been. We don't know. I'm throwing those things out. We have yet to talk about and coordinate.
I think so. That means we only have 2 weeks of overlap, or 1 week, or 2 weeks, I think. Because 12th is when Defenders comes out.
It's the 12th? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have, by the time we record the second, the second of the next 2 upcoming episodes, we'll be in the overlap zone. And then we'll have 2 weeks following that. So if somewhere in there we do the first Defenders episode and do the first Defenders show and do 2 episodes, then we could probably let that sit until we get done with Dark Matter, and then we'll be back kind of in sync. So we may do, because we kind of inadvertently did one episode of this, or 2 episodes of this show that covered 2 episodes. One was by the network's design because they aired episodes 1 and 2 on the same night at the premiere. And then later, due to scheduling conflicts and whatnot, we wound up doing one show, doing 2. So maybe what we would do is 2 episodes 2 episodes the first Defender show, 2 episodes the second Defender show, and then proceed on with 1 episode apiece. I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But you're a fan, and you're also just into sci-fi geek culture stuff in general. It's just communicating to you that our intention is to continue producing television and entertainment-oriented content on the E2KG network during what is sure to be a very painful hiatus between seasons 3 and 4 of Dark Matter. So I don't know, Dave, anything else that you want to cover tonight?
I think we hit it all, man. We're getting pretty close to almost an hour.
Yeah, surprisingly so. I thought this episode would be much shorter. So I think that's going to do it for us. The only thing I would mention is please take a look at our other content on the channel. We do 2 other gaming shows. So one that is a discussion-oriented show, enough to keep going, and then E2KG in 30, which is focused on news for the gaming industry. We will probably be adding an additional gaming show to the lineup that will be pretty aperiodic. It'll kind of be like special episodes where we will specifically hyper-focus on financial news and market news and things of that nature. So, and we're planning on orienting that around the output of quarterly earnings results that come out from each of the technology companies in the gaming space. So, keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, please like individual shows. Please subscribe to the channel. Please hit us up on Twitter with any input, feedback, or requests, and continue enjoying the show for the next 4 episodes, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll all get together as a big family back for season 4. So thanks so much for joining in on behalf of Mr. Dave Pecci and myself, Gasoline Stainless from GearWorks.com, the E2KG Network, and rounding off Infinity. That's going to do it for us. We are out of here.